Welcome back to another episode of Light Beer, Dark Money. I'm Sean Noble.
And I'm Chris Clements, and we are ranting.
And we are talking about something that we do not agree on.
We might agree on part of it, but I don't know if we agree
Set it up
on a lot
Chris.
of it. Well, about a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, conservative colleagues of ours, Steve Hayes and Jonah Goldberg, both formerly of AEI, and now they write a online magazine called The Dispatch.
And formerly both National Review.
And formerly both National Review. Very well-respected authors. Good guys overall. Have had some engagements with them. But they threw a hissy fit and left Fox News. And they left Fox News, they say, because of a documentary, or I call it kind of a docudrama, that Tucker Carlson has done on the Fox News streaming service. What's the name of it?
Fox Nation.
Fox Nation, called Patriot Purge, which kind of outlines what happened on January 6th and interviews a lot of the participants of January 6th and draws what they call conspiracy theory conclusions. And if you haven't watched it, it's very interesting. You know, you can argue with its conclusions or not. Mm-hmm. And I'm not here to talk about the viability. We just finished another podcast, or whether Patriot Purge is correct or not correct. I just found like their reasoning for leaving Fox News just suspect and kind of phony. And I'm just truth told, I'm a paid member of the Dispatch. I go on there and the Dispatch has really become a never Trump, orange man bad swampy place where everyone, both of the left and the middle, go and it's their little safe space.
Okay.
And
Tucker's obviously not in that vein.
No, and you know, I am of the opinion. Listen, you can take pot shots at Fox News all the time, and conservatives can do that if they want. I think so. For the people who are out there asking if I know Tucker Carlson, yes, I do know Tucker Carlson, and I've spent a significant amount of time with Tucker Carlson, and I like Tucker Carlson. I don't agree with him on everything, and I don't need to agree with Tucker on everything. I don't have to agree with his takes on most things to like him personally.
Right.
And what I was really, concerned with is that the discussion on the Dispatch devolved into this: Fox News is fascist, Tucker's a complete total Nazi and communist and all these different things. And I'm like, this is all just crazy. You people need to go back into your swampiness and safe spaces and console each other, because everything is not all bad and everything is not all good.
Right.
And Tucker's an entertainer, and he knows his audience, and he does things for that audience. There's no doubt about that. But there's a lot of things that he does on Fox Nation in terms of some of the interviews that he does that are quite good. Mm-hmm. and quite excellent, actually. And so that was the argument I was making. I don't think now Jonah Goldberg and Steve Hayes have been on Special Report with Bret Baier for many, many years. They're a contrarian view on there in the conservative movement. I think that's great. I think that's necessary. I think their takes, contrarian as they may be to some of the other conservatives that are on there, like a Molly Hemingway, or when he was alive, Charles Krauthammer,
right,
was fine. It's good. It's good for the network. It's good for the discussion. And so for them to leave and cite Patriot Purge as the reason, I thought was disingenuous.
You thought it was a cheap shot.
Listen, Tucker works off ratings. If you're going to give him more ratings, say that you're leaving Fox News because of Tucker Carlson. His ratings were through the roof last week.
Yeah.
And Patriot Purge got more views than it had since it was released, because they were leaving because of it. I just think it was a phony thing. I think they were being more and more marginalized within the network. Their contracts weren't being renewed. It was obvious their contracts probably 6 months ago weren't being renewed, and they decided to take a cheap shot.
Okay. Well, I'll disagree a little bit. My disagreement really isn't that I believe that Tucker, I mean, he's a talented guy, but he also does play to the audience, right? I
Sure.
mean, he knows what his audience wants to hear. The difference between Tucker and Jonah and Steve are intellectual conservatives. They come at this, they're movement guys who came up in the William F. Buckley mold, where, you know, Buckley could be biting and, you know, acerbic, you know, firing line was a great example when he had that. But he wasn't a populist. You know, Tucker's a populist.
Sure.
These guys understand that the conservative movement is not a populist movement. It's Trump's version of conservatism has become populist, and Tucker's embraced that. And I think that they rightfully kind of repel from that because that's not where they came up. I mean, there's a lot of what Tucker espouses that is not consistent with the kind of conservatism that these guys came up with under William F. Buckley.
Yeah, but they're not on Tucker's show.
Well, I get that.
So if you're gonna disagree with him on something, then go on his show and disagree with him.
Would he
Make
let him
an
on their
argument.
show?
Sure, he would.
I don't know.
Sure.
Well, here you have an
He's
example.
had
of where
Mayor de Blasio on his show.
No, because he can beat up on de Blasio is a moron. Tucker has de Blasio on because it's like, oh, easy punching bag. Let's go at him.
Yeah, I just am of the opinion that it's not all bad, and it's not, and you can agree without being disagreeable.
That's right.
Obviously, and I don't think you take a pot shot like that if you're really leaving for that reason. I just think the reasoning is phony.
And maybe you're right.
And I got blasted for that.
Well, if you went on their paid platform and criticized them, of course you got blasted. For that. Just as if I went on Tucker's platform and said something critical of Tucker, I'd get blasted.
Yeah, but
it's the nature of what's going on.
Nature of what's going on. And it's too bad that has to be that way. I guess that's my point, is that, listen, there's a lot of good things that come out of many of Tucker's interviews and some of the stuff that he does. Jonah and Steve, when they were on Special Report, were a valuable resource for a lot of the intellectual conservative vein, so to speak. Now, their colleague David French, I would not call him an intellectual conservative. No, I would not call him a conservative at all. But I digress.
We'll have a conversation.
Yeah, we'll have that conversation another time. So, you know, you and I consider ourselves in that vein as well. The National Review, William F. Buckley vein, grew up in the movement. But I think if you're going to leave, just leave. Just say, hey, listen, we had opinion differences with the editorial content of the network, whatever that means.
Right.
Because I think you can find all sorts of different editorial content within the network if you go and look for it.
Well, maybe it was smart on their part to take a little shot at Tucker because then that drives
anti-Tucker.
People,
it drives people to their site too, who are disgruntled and angry.
It is part of the problem. It's all clickbait. It's all clickbait.
You're all being played.
We're all being played.
All being played.
All right. Well,
but
I guess
but the Dispatch is a worthy place to go.
Yeah, it is. We can agree on that.
Yeah, for good commentary and some good takes on the nature of Washington and what's going on in the body politic. And I like watching Tucker Carlson tonight and listening to some of his interviews. So
I hear what you report on what I don't watch Fox News. So
yeah, I know you don't. You watch CNN.
I don't watch anything.
Yeah.
I think cable news.
You've been watching Chris Cuomo.
Yeah,
in defense of his brother.
Oh my gosh,
who just got fired?
What an idiot!
Yeah.
Now I won't.
Now you should watch Tucker go after Chris Cuomo. Now that is classic.
Well, I'm sure it is. But would Tucker do things to defend his wife or his, brother, or I don't fault Chris for being a brother, but the guy's been pushing the line for a long time. I mean, all the love fest they had early on in COVID was just as inappropriate as Chris calling reporters and trying to get.
Well, that's a nice segue too, because we have a request going out to Janice Dean, who is also does the weather for Fox News and who really led the charge against Governor Cuomo in in what he did in moving COVID patients into nursing homes. And she lost her in-laws.
Yeah.
And she's going to be coming on the show here in the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. Well,
we'll get to talk about the Cuomo brothers a little bit more.
I'm sure she'll have some opinion about that.
And we can agree on a lot of that.
We'll agree on that.
Yeah,
sure.
we'll agree on that for sure. So
Follow
remember
us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at Light Beer Dark Money.
And remember, we are a podcast all about faith, freedom, and free enterprise.
And agreeing to disagree.
Yeah,
when
and we agree to disagree on some issues. All right, God bless.
Have a good one, guys.